Alrighty, so we got a little bit time before the two game between Uruguay versus Spain and Cape Verde versus Saudi Arabia is about to begin. This is a good time for me to kind of do a review of yesterday action as well, and also just do a quick recap of some of the action because the two games I'm going to do a full review is the Germany, Ecuador, and Paraguay versus Australia game. I also already did a full review of the U.S. game against Turkey yesterday. But yeah, when it comes to the other games are that is not involved in this two games, I'm going to do a full review. We'll start by first talking about Group F. That is where we saw the matchup between the Netherlands and Tunisia, and I thought that was going to be an absolute law. I thought that was going to be Germany versus Carousel because Tunisia has looked really bad in this tournament, and when they were down 2-0 after just 8 minutes, I thought, oh boy, this has Germany versus Carousel written all over it. And knowing the Dutch really put the hammer down against Sweden and score 5 goals, I thought it was probably going to be close to that, and then some against Tunisia. But give credit to Tunisia; they did fought hard in this one. They did get a goal in this one, and eventually did lose this one 3-1, which sounds like a win for Tunisia because consider how they've been playing in this tournament, where they've been battered left, right, and center against both Japan and Sweden. I think taking a 3-1 loss to the Dutch, and it's kind of ironic the fact that the loss that they have that is the least that is a blown out, and the most competitive game that they play is against probably the best team in the group, that is in the Netherlands. But yeah, with that win, Netherlands of course finished first place, and then of course you got Japan versus Sweden. That game just kind of felt like when both teams were locked to horns at one apiece late in the game. It kind of felt like both teams realized that let's just take the draw because obviously Japan is most likely don't don't have anything to play for when it comes to getting a win because they're probably not going to catch the Dutch. In fact, it's not even a probably. They're definitely not going to catch the Dutch when it comes to the goal difference. And Sweden, obviously, with a draw would have been enough for them to move on as a third place team, and that's exactly what happened in that game. But unfortunately, Group F, the letter F, that is, it's pretty much stands for you are fucked in that group, that is, because pretty much all the team in that group has to face some really tough opponents in the round 32. The Nails, of course, get Morocco. Japan gets Brazil, and then Sweden. Their reward finish third is they have to face against France. And as we'll talk about a little bit later, France look like they are an unstoppable machine so far in this tournament. And then we get into the game between Germany and Ecuador. And before this one, the other game was Ivory Coast versus Carousel. I think if that was the case, yeah, Carousel was the opponent. That is Ivory Coast, of course, took care of business. That game was kind of a little meaningless because Ivory Coast was going to finish second, no matter what kind of circumstances. They're not going to get first place. Germany already clinched the top spot from the win that they had against Ivory Coast in the last game because of the head battle. But the big question coming into this game between Germany and Ecuador is, can Ecuador finally get a win to get themselves qualify into the round 32? Because as I said, Ecuador has been one of those teams that has been a huge dark horse, and it feels like some of the dark horse I mentioned in this tournament has massively disappointed. Ecuador is definitely one of those teams, and I gotta say, in this game, they kind of proved that why they were the dark horse in this one because they were the better side in this one. Now, granted, Germany didn't play their strongest team in this one, but you kind of sense that Ecuador there was some desperation. They need to win this game if they have any hope of moving on into the next round. And that's exactly what happened. Though there was some controversy in this game early because 2 minutes into this game, Germany actually took the lead as Leroy Sané would score from Wits to give Germany a 1-0 lead. And yeah, that goal shouldn't have counted. And by the way, this was a game where we kind of saw an MLS crew in terms of referee. You got Tony Penso as the referee, or Corey Pencil, that is the main referee. And then of course in the VAR we got Joe Dickerson, of course, being one the leader in terms of that VAR room. So yeah, welcome to the experience of a pro world, in terms of why all my years in terms of complaining about how bad refereeing is in MLS, and it's great to see that that has not changed in the World Cup. That is because yeah, that absolutely should have been a foul on the development play. It was a high boot there there on the development play. I don't know why they didn't call it, but give credit to Ecuador. That didn't really kind of left them despair. And even though at that point I thought it probably could have been because even with the controversy, see now that Ecuador has to get out of the comfort zone. So in that moment they kind of also switched off as well. Yes, Ecuadorian fans were was not happy in that moment of the call that goes against them, but you can't switch off. Even when it was pretty clear that it should have been chalk ball for a foul there. You can't just switch off. You have to play for the whistle. They didn't, and yeah, as a result, they were down 1-0. But like I said, Ecuador showed some resilience because in the eighth minute of this game, they finally got their first goal in this tournament as Angulo would score from Vite to tie the game up at one apiece. It's kind of interesting how we talk about Turkey having problem when it comes to scoring so far in this tournament, and yet they scored on their first shot on the third game, and guess what happened in this one? On the first shot of the game for Ecuador, it goes in after 40 shots attempt. Ecuador finally gets themselves an opener, and they can thank Germany for this because it was a bad turnover from Germany. Germany was being very sloppy in the midfield in this one. There was just so many bad turnover from Germany in this one. And really, after a dramatic first 10 minutes, Germany did start to control into this game. You just kind of wonder, Ecuador, now that you got the equalizer, you don't really need to press it immediately. And I had a feeling that was kind of what their manager was telling his guys that, hey, look, just be defensive, just stay in pack. We're gonna go eventually have that time to go for it, but you don't want to do it relatively early because when you open yourself up, that's when Germany will definitely take advantage. And of course, Ecuador was trying to sit back and look for the counter. That's kind of been the philosophy for them throughout this World Cup and even in the World Cup qualifier in Conmebol as well. Um, though I said that, but I feel like they started to become a little bit aggressive, trying to counter press there, and why not? Because Germany was being sloppy in the midfield. They're just having a lot of trouble in terms of dealing with the Ecuadorian press. Though Havertz would then hit one right to Galindez before Musiala had a shot that was deflected high for a corner. Germany started to gain control a little bit, trying to look to get the lead back, but we do head to halftime with the score tied up at one apiece. In the second half, there was a penalty that was given to Germany, but they go to VAR to see whether or not if there was a foul on the development of play before Odonius brought down Havertz in the box, and yeah, there was. And I think this, you can say, I mean, I don't want to say it's a makeup call because it is the right call in the end. There's nothing controversial about that, but I guess, imagine if this call goes against the Ecuadorian. I'm pretty sure the whole Ecuadorian population will be going right at the referee, and that again, it's another example of the frustration I deal with as a person that watch MLS week in and week out. Of this is kind of the thing that we see, and it's hard to believe, or I wouldn't say hard to believe, but it's kind of fascinating the fact that we're now seeing it in the World Cup as well. No wonder why people hate the U.S. Not just because of us become a little bit arrogant after winning the last two games prior to that Turkey loss, but also the fact that yeah, we do not produce very good referee on the world stage. But I also thought that was kind of a get out of the jail free card for Ecuador. They really didn't start on time again, just like they did in the first half, and they can't afford to give up another goal. I feel like if they give up another goal, I don't see any way back for Ecuador in this one, especially with the struggle that they had scoring. Yeboah would then have a shot that was deflected and goes wide. It's been a very disappointing tournament for John Yeboah. He was supposed to be the guy alongside with Erner Valencia as the guy to score the goals, and while Valencia has been kind of disappointing as well, that was kind of expected because he's been out of form in his club level. You would expect John Yeboah would step up in terms of that role, and he just have not done that whatsoever for Ecuador. And by the way, that sequence all started because once again, guess what? Germany turned the ball over. Was a common theme in this game. You sense Ecuador started to go a little bit might start go defensive again. But again, will they start pushing hard to try to get the winner? It seems like that was going to be the key, especially after the 70 minute, where they're going to push hard to trying to get the winner to make sure they move on into the next round. Because really, this is pretty much it's an elimination game for Ecuador. They had to win this one. If they don't win this one, they're pretty much eliminated from the World Cup. Neuer would then deny Valencia from long range. It was also another one of these World Cup, or actually, let me just rephrase that. I just realized that there was a moment where they actually showed the attendance record as well. So over 3 million people attended this World Cup. Not a big surprise because not only the fact that when you have more games in the World Cup, that means the attendance was going to be broken, but also when you look at all the stadium around this country and even up in Mexico and Canada, they're big stadium. It was bound to happen that the attendance was going to be broken. I didn't think it was going to be this early though. In this tournament. Well, I say early. We're kind of in the mid part or just in the second half of this World Cup right now. Plata with MSY as he was trying to stab one in from close range, and that was really the chance for Ecuador. I mean, that was really the moment for them to get the lead and try to stay in the sermon. But in the 78th minute, Plata makes up for it as he scored here from Rodriguez to make it 2-1 in favor of Ecuador. Probably one of the biggest goal Ecuador has ever scored in their World Cup. And as the old saying goes, when all fails, when your attack is not firing all cylinder, why not go back to the set piece? Well, set pieces has been just such a key thing. It's been such a safety valve for a lot of teams this World Cup where we've seen a lot of fair share of set piece goals. And for Ecuador, even though they have been a little lackluster on the set piece department, why not finally lean into that to that trend in terms of a lot of goal scoring from that space? And yeah, huge goal for Ecuador. Now they have the lead, but now the question is, can they hold on? Because yes, this is of course going to be the strength for them where they're going to just defend and try to see swings out. But Germany is not going to back down. I mean, I did say that it also kind of helps that maybe Germany was just happy to ride this out, making sure there was unnecessary injury or yellow card. That was a little different because as the time winds down, really Ecuador was defending for their lives. Like Germany was pushing hard to try to tie this game up. I'm pretty sure the German media will not be happy if they lose to Ecuador in this one, even if it's a meaningless game. Unda would then hits it into the side netting in the third minute stoppage time, but in the end, Ecuador they survive. They are moving on into the next round despite having those disappointing resort against Curacao and Ivory Coast that is, and in many ways they kind of done it the hard way because those were the two game I mentioned was supposed to be one that Ecuador has the bigger chance to win, and the Germany one was always going to be a tough task. Who knew that they had this is of course the way that they of course move on. Definitely not what I expected it, but they'll definitely take it. The shots in this one, 7 shots for the 11 that Germany has. Both team had 3 shots on goal. Both team had 3 shots off target. 1 shot was blocked for the 5 that Germany has. And possession wise, 39% possession compared to 61% possession that Germany has in this game. And while I know there's still going to be a lot of question about Ecuador when it comes to their goal scoring as well, don't think they're an opponent that you really want to face. I do still believe this team could be a dark horse team if they can just maybe figure something out on the attack a bit because this defense is absolutely lights out. I mean, this defense have shut down some really good attacking opponent at times. I mean, they really hold Germany for most of this game. Germany didn't really have too much threat. Some might say it's because the fact that the Germans weren't really putting their strongest starter, but it's also so the fact that this is a common theme for Ecuador, not only in this World Cup but also in the World Cup qualifying, where this team it's tough to break down, and you don't want to have to face a team that is tough to break down the knockout stage. In fact, that usually is a good trend to have when you are a team heading into the knockout stage, where the margin is definitely thin. Where if you stay defensively compacted and maybe nick a goal, that might be a success for them for them to move on. But it's all about whether or not they can score the goals, and that's kind of the reason why they kind of had to do it the hard way in this one, where they just haven't got any goals from their attacking forward. And if they really want to continue to be a dark horse and continue to go on a deep run, they definitely need those goals to help them take the pressure off of a defense that is not going to give a lot away once they make it into to the knockout round. Now, moving on in terms of the next game. So this game, I actually watched this game while the U.S. versus Turkey game was happening, and yeah, let's just say that so far in this tournament, there was always going to be a sense that there's going to be one of these games where nothing is going to happen. It's going to be an absolute bore fest. This was one of them. And I think everybody knew this was coming. I mean, with the way that both of these teams are very ultra defensive, shall I say, this was pretty much haram ball versus haram ball because both of these teams tends to play like that. You knew that this was going to end 0-0, and you also knew that with the resort, for Australia, if they can get a 0-0 draw, they're going to finish second and move on to the next round. Paraguay, they finished 0-0. That's actually not a bad thing as well because they most likely could move on into the next round with 4 points and sitting pretty in the best third place standing. So it was not a big surprise that it just kind of felt like both of these teams realized that yeah, let's just give minimum effort on the attacking end and just ride out to a 0-0 resort. Early on, Hill would deny Irvine from close range. Australia was definitely on the front foot. They were pressing to try to get the opener. Irvine would then puts it over from long range. Paraguay definitely seems to get started to get into this game a little bit. They survived a little bit of the pressure that Australia put early in this one. Though the shots were only 2-0 for the Aussies early on. We then go for a period where not much really happened. That was kind of the theme throughout this game. Boss would then hit it right to Hugh in the 35th minute before Hugh denied Vapoto on the corner in the first minute stoppage time. Australia is looking to press late to try to get a first half lead. Irvine would then hit it high from close in the third minute stoppage time, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Kubas would put it wide from close in the 46th minute before Caceres would put it wide from long range in the 48th minute. For the first time tonight, Paraguay had some sustained pressure. They're trying to get themselves the lead here early in the second half. Caceres would then put it wide from long range, though we then once again go for a long period where not much happened. It looked like this first half and second half was kind of the same thing where, in the beginning there was a little bit of fireworks and then it was a snooze fest after that. Because the next chance we have came in the 82nd minute when Ensencio would puts it wide from long range. Heel would then deny Boss from close in the 83rd minute. I even wrote, you wonder if both of these teams they might just take the a no draw because yeah, Australia, of course, is going to be move on with a 0-0 result. Paraguay most likely could do so as one of the best third place team. Boss would then cross it wide from long range before Maurizio would hit it right to beach in the second minute of stoppage time. But yeah, that was pretty much it. It definitely it was one of those games, isn't it? And I feel like we were bound to have one of these games where it's just going to be a complete bore fest. And this is also where I definitely feel bad for all those folks that attended this game and see this one. Believe it or not, I was actually very close of thinking about going to this game just because of what is at stake in this one between both of these teams to look to move on into the next round. Thank goodness I didn't do that because that would have been not only a huge waste of time, but I will immediately have buyer's remorse after watching this game. But the shots in this one, 7 shots with the 12 that Australia has, 5 shots on goal with the 2 that Paraguay has, 5 shots off target with the 4 that Paraguay has, 2 shots was blocked with the 1 that Paraguay has, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that Paraguay has in this one. And despite the fact that this game kind of bored us to death, I don't think both of the supporter of these teams is gonna be caring about that. Most importantly for the Socceroos, they're moving on into the knockout round as well. Who knew that 2-0 win that they had against Tunisia? How big that turns out to be, especially with the way, or not Tunisia, I'm sorry, Turkey. That they got that win for. Who knew that turns out to be a huge win at the grand scheme of thing? And for Paraguay, it's the same thing. That game that they had against Turkey, who knew that could be a huge decider of them potentially be one of the team that will be moving on as the best third place team. I really think if you get 4 points in this group, and I know there's still teams to play, but I really think 4 points is going to be enough. I think that usually is the magic number of moving on into the knockout round, and I think it's going to be the same case in this tournament as well, especially with the expanded format. So yeah, in the end, it was a boring game, but I don't think neither of these teams care because at the end of the day, every point matters, and both of these teams are just kind of happy knowing the stake that is in terms of getting a point. And this also kind of just is another reminder of how there is definitely a huge flaw with this system. If this is, of course, the way it is, and also the head-to-head system. I understand the head-to-head system. Basically, they are telling teams that they got to go for it. Maybe this is kind of the reason why the competition isn't as watered down as we've seen in previous uh, tur- tournaments where it really feel like both team kind of had to go for it because they want to have the head-to-head advantage. Well, yes, on one hand that of course does provide much entertaining soccer, but also the downside of that is that you see a situation like what we saw yesterday with Turkey and US where there was really nothing to play for because Turkey is mathematically eliminated. The U.S. they can't lose first place because they have the tiebreaker, and even if Australia win, the U.S. still has that tiebreaker because they of course beat Australia, and I think they would have also still got it in the old format as well. So this is also why I hear people say, oh, the U.S. got lucky that they won their first 2 game and and didn't do well against Turkey. But here's the thing: under the old format, the U.S. would have still finished for first place, even if Australia win or even if Paraguay win, because the U.S. built such a great goal differential from the first two games. Like they got +5 goal differential from the first two games. That even with the loss that they had against Turkey, their goal differential would have been +4, and nobody on this team, definitely Australia, I don't think they have a +4 goal differential finish at the end of the group. So even under the old format, the U.S. would have got the top spot, even if either Paraguay and Australia win this game as well, as long as it's not by a big margin, that is. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for my quick review of two of these games. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this review. Later today, we will do a review of today's game, and I'm actually going to be planning to do the review right after the Uruguay versus Spain and Cape Verde versus Saudi Arabia game, because I am feeling a little bit tired again today, despite I really want to stay up late to watch both of those late games that is, but we'll see how it's going to go. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.